Welcome to Behind the Scenes, the podcast where we delve into the diverse perspectives of the brilliant minds at Entura, one of the world's most experienced power and water consulting firms. This podcast comes to you today from Nipaluna, Hobart, the traditional country of the Moina people of the Southeast Nation. We acknowledge the Tasmanian Aboriginal people and their ongoing connection to culture and country, and the traditional owners of other lands people are joining from today. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people listening today. Join us as we explore the stories of talented individuals shaping a sustainable future, discover who they are, uncover the intricacies of their role, and explore what drives their passion. Get ready for an insider's view into the heartbeat of Entura and the journey toward a more sustainable tomorrow. My guest today is Sally Fracalossi. Sally's a civil engineer with 8 years' experience. She started in 2020 at Entura in the Dams and Geotech team. Prior to that, she had 5 years' experience in a multinational consultancy company. This gives Sally a great breadth of knowledge and great project management experience. Sally, welcome.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, it's good to be here. Glad to sit down with you. I'm excited about this new initiative.
Fantastic. So the first question is,
Yep.
Who are you?
Great question. Hopefully a topic I can answer pretty well. As you said, I'm Sally. I'm a Tassie girl through and through, so born and raised in Nipaluna, Hobart. Been living in the Kimber area my whole life, including now with my husband. So very fortunate, I guess, to be living and experiencing the water so close to home. And I don't think it was until later in my life that I realised the value that provides, which I'm sure we'll get to later on in our chat. Hobart, born and raised, studied engineering, and I'm sure we'll get to the journey as to how I got there as well.
So how were you drawn to engineering?
It's a great question, and I think with the profession itself, particularly for females in engineering, I feel like being drawn to that profession isn't something that would be very common. For me, I guess it was a few different influential factors. So I guess I was lucky enough to have a great mentor in my dad, being a senior civil structural engineer. So I guess I had the exposure from very early on in my life that others wouldn't really be privileged to. So I felt like that really helped to demystify the profession and actually what we do as engineers for me. I still have fond memories of sitting on my dad's office floor, and kids would normally be playing with Barbies and Lego, but I just had like this little model retaining wall set that he had, and I was building it up. So really fond memories of just being immersed in his life as an engineer. But look, it wasn't all rainbows and sunshine sitting there with Dad. I remember one time I was probably acting up a bit, and so he went to the vending machine in the office to try and placate me for a few minutes and came back with a packet of twisties. But I just remember being so disappointed because, no shade if you like chicken twisties, but that's what my dad came back with. And so one of the first lessons about engineering was that there are disappointments. So it's good to be resilient. We all have chicken twisty moments, but I can really credit Dad a lot to my initial sort of understanding of engineering, and then all throughout school I was able to apply that as well. And I guess I can credit some of my teachers, particularly in science and maths, to really fostering that in us. I went to an all-girls school, so it was really encouraging to see them having such a strong STEM education program. And so I did a lot of things like Tournament of Minds, Science and Engineering Challenge, Numbers Club and Science Club, which are about as nerdy as they sound. But we actually did some really cool things as part of those. Like we built hovercrafts, and we built like an electric armchair out of a sofa from a tip, and just things that I guess were the practical applications of the theory we were learning in class. And I feel like that's the difference. I think that's the pathway that we can attract more people, particularly girls, to engineering by trying to show how we can actually apply that in the real world.
Yeah, so it was really in the stars from the beginning for you.
Exactly.
That was where you were headed.
Yeah, that's right. And I wouldn't say I didn't enjoy all the other subjects. Like, yes, I was keen and interested and good at science and maths, but there were plenty of other subjects I enjoyed, but I just felt like it was the best way to capture and apply my skills. And yeah, having Dad's mentorship as well sort of encouraged me that it was, a viable and fulfilling career.
Was there at any point that you thought you might go into a different field of engineering?
I guess, yeah, I suppose. So Dad being a civil engineer, I always thought I would kind of follow in his footsteps. But when I went into first year uni where I studied at UTAS, you do all the same subjects for the first 1.5 years. So we got exposure to electrical, mechanical, and all those other sort of major streams. And I did consider mechanical at one point in time, but I think I just felt like the civil aspects I understood and appreciated the most. And I also thought that in Tasmania in particular, there were lots of employment opportunities, and it's such a broad field of engineering in itself. So I felt like there was lots of room to grow and learn in civil particularly. Yeah.
So finishing up at uni, where did you go then?
So I started out with a Hobart-based multinational consultancy, and they mainly worked on roads and highways projects. So I had sort of, I guess, a fairly broad introduction to those areas of civil engineering through that role, and got to work on a number of really exciting projects. And I think what's most fulfilling for me about my time there is being involved in a project from, say, concept or feasibility all the way through to construction and design, and actually seeing something that you came up with in your head or on Google Images in one case for one of my projects, and actually see that come to life and people driving those intersections now. It's pretty surreal, and I think that's the real joy I get out of the work that I do.
Yeah, so you get to spend the time in the office doing the hard thinking, and then
that's right.
Chuck on a hard hat and a high vis vest and get out and kick some dirt as well.
Yeah, that's right. And I think sometimes there can be that misconception or perception that engineers are always kicking dirt around and they're on construction sites, but you're completely true in saying that. It starts often in the office for many of us, and particularly in consulting where we're doing a real variety of different things, design, analysis, reporting, communicating with stakeholders. So, I think that's definitely some important aspects of the role too.
Okay. So in 2020, you joined us here at Entura. Yeah. What attracted you to Entura?
I was really keen to stay in consulting. I really enjoy working for clients, solving problems, seeing those come to life. And I was keen to work for a local consultant and do a bit of a 180 from roads and highways into the water sector. And that really left me with, a few options, but Entura was definitely it stood out from the crowd in terms of their ethos, what they offered. I also knew a couple of ex-colleagues who worked there, and they spoke really highly of it and the working environment. I think sometimes in consultancy you can get caught up a little bit in the rat race and the high pace of life. So it was nice to come to like a different model of consulting at Entura, where I felt like even though there's some amazing hard workers there, I feel like we've got the work-life balance pretty right. Yep.
And what sort of projects did you get involved in those early days?
Yeah, it's a good question, because I guess from my previous role I had quite a bit of project management experience, and that was something at Entura they were quite interested in, particularly for some of their large dam safety surveillance programs. So I came from a background with very little prior knowledge about dams, so I essentially felt like I was starting from square one in many ways. But at the same time, the team, the Dams and Geotech, as you mentioned at the start, the team that I came into was so incredibly supportive and willing to assist and share their knowledge with me, both formally mentoring and also on the job. So when I got started with Entura, I was project managing a client's dam safety surveillance program, and I did that for about 18 months or so, I think. And that was really good because it gave me a really good background into dams in Tasmania, particularly for this client. And they have a number of them across the state. So I got to see a lot of those, understand their drivers and interact with them, and I felt like it really gave me a good grounding experience in dam engineering. So it was, for me, a really gentle but effective way of involving me in the dams industry world. So, yeah, that was a really good project to start with.
Yeah. And what are you working on now? What's your current work?
Yeah, so it has evolved a fair bit since then, and I'm working on quite a few different things at one time, which definitely keeps things interesting, and I really enjoy the variety of work that I do. So since then, I guess I've been involved in various construction support roles. So I was going up to Smithton about every month for a while there for a dam upgrade project. I'm also design manager on a couple of projects too for hydro, which has been good to involve ourselves with hydro and some of their exciting projects, including Battery of the Nation. I felt like I was a small fish in a big pond really in that project because just looking at one particular aspect of it, but then working to fairly tight delivery timeframes, interacting lots with hydro as our client, working with a small team to get the job done in a relatively short space of time. And now it's sort of nearing completion of construction is quite rewarding. So that was one of my first design roles, and I learnt a lot during that process. And right now I'm also managing the design of a upgrade for hydro in the Central Highlands, which again is a really multifaceted project, and we're working with multiple stakeholders within Hydro's environmental team, their production team, their dam safety and delivery teams. And so it's been really interesting getting to know the client in different ways and all these different people, and trying to bring together all their sort of drivers and goals and concerns with this project, and try and manage expectations and also, I guess address those through our design. So it's quite an interesting, multifaceted project as well. So, yeah, a whole variety of stuff at the moment.
Yeah. So you touched on there the Battery of the Nation projects.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Battery of the Nation is a big body of work that we're involved in at the moment, and it ties in nicely to our sustainable future.
Yes.
What do you see as your role in that, and then what's the larger picture?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I guess I feel very fortunate that I got to be a part of it, and I think there's such a large volume of work there to be done. So to be able to be a part of that was really, really special for me, particularly because I haven't really had the chance to work on specifically sort of renewable projects that are working towards net zero. So that I felt like I made some sort of a contribution personally. So that was really good. And I guess in terms of the bigger picture, it's how long have we got, I suppose. But I can see that the Battery of the Nation project, and it's linked to also the Marinus Link project, and the NEM in general is going to be a huge win for Tasmania, looking towards 200% renewable, I believe, once that project is complete. So I think it's a really critical part of the puzzle piece towards net zero, and I think Tasmania is really paving the way to that.
Yeah. And what would you say to a young engineer looking to get into the renewable space?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's something that a lot of young people are passionate about, and I think particularly in more recent times, as we start to see how we're comparing against the trends that had been predicted towards 2050 for climate impact, I think, I would say that I was reading a report the other night to say that some of the barriers to entry to engineering can be that lack of perception or incorrect perceptions around having a fulfilling and impactful career. And I think the renewable industry in particular is an area where people can have a really profound impact on our climate future. So I think there needs to be a bit of a switch, and we need to be able to do more to try and demystify that for people and demonstrate how they can actually have a role. And I think probably our universities and schools need to be, possibly more proactive at promoting those sort of opportunities. And we probably are starting to see some more of it as well.
Yeah. So thinking about the future, and if I may, I understand there's some big news on the horizon for you personally.
Yeah.
So with that in the mix,
Yeah.
what does the next sort of 5 to 10 years look like for Sally?
Yeah, that's great. It's a typical job interview question, isn't it? But yeah, so I'm expecting a little one in early March next year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very excited about it. And I guess I felt like with the move to Entura and our, flexible ways of working, a supportive team, it felt like the perfect time to take that next step in life. And yes, it's going to be quite different. But I also feel incredibly supported. Like Hydro has a really good parental leave policy, which applies both to both parents, which is excellent. And then I guess the return to work sort of plan from there. So I feel really supported by my team and my leaders in taking this next step and coming back to work when I feel ready. I think there's a lot of opportunity there that'll still be open for me when I get back, and I don't feel fearful or nervous about that at all. I think that I'll hopefully be able to step in and fit right back in with the team, because I know I've worked hard to establish the relationships with everyone over the last 3 years. So I know they're excited for me, but probably more excited for me to come back.
Oh, indeed.
Yeah.
So moving from roads to now dams and renewables, do you see yourself changing industries again or disciplines, or do you see yourself staying in this renewable space long term?
I think for me, what makes me tick, I suppose, as you mentioned earlier, is a job that I find fulfilling and that makes me happy, and where I have positive relationships with people. So I think that very much contributes to my job satisfaction. So staying with Entura long term is something that I could see very much eventuating, because I feel that sense of support, and it's also an industry obviously that I'm very passionate about and still learning lots about. So there's people I work with who've been with Entura for 20, 30 years, and they're still learning things and passing on their knowledge. So I think for now I'm really happy in the dams renewable space, and I think even within that there's so many areas to specialise and sort of step sideways into as well if needed. So I can't really see myself in any other areas of civil as yet. Yeah.
And is it, out of those specialisation areas, is there anything that kind of pulls you in one direction more than the other, or do you be a specialist generalist?
Yeah. Jack of all trades, master of none is the phrase that comes to mind. But no, I think for now I'm happy being sort of a generalist and absorbing all the different aspects of dam engineering, and maybe in future I'll narrow it down to a specific area, whether that's dam safety or design or risk assessment or analyses and that sort of thing. But for now I'm just enjoying seeing how those all tie together, I guess, and learning as much as I can.
Okay. So just thinking about the projects that you've been involved in the last 3 years, is there one that stands out as an absolute highlight?
I'm going to be a bit left field and not talk specifically about a project, but an experience. So I've been fortunate enough over the last couple of years to be involved in Entura's Clean Energy and Water Institute, which is their registered training organisation. I just sort of started out thinking, am I qualified to be teaching people about dams engineering yet? But the team who runs a CEWE is incredibly supportive and empowering. So I've found that just an interesting, not really a side hustle because it's part of my role now, but it's been interesting, I guess, having the opportunity to pass on what knowledge I do have to our water industry operators, engineers. There was also recently an overseas delegation, and I think that's a really unique offering that Entura provides. I said I was always tending towards engineering, but teaching was another career that I had at times considered. So it's nice to sort of be able to, I guess, pursue that sort of passion as well through Entura. So that's been a really great experience, and you get to sort of understand people's different perspectives and backgrounds and try and, I guess, adapt the content and knowledge that you share to suit them. So, yeah.
So let's talk about that that international contingent that was over recently. So where was this international contingent from?
They came over from Bhutan, Nepal, Sri Lanka and India. Mm-hmm. So there were about 21 in total. And unfortunately I had COVID during the time they were meant to be down, so I didn't get to spend a lot of time with them. But yeah, from the experience that I did have, they were really engaged and quite inquisitive as well. So they had a lot of questions for us, and they came from a variety of different backgrounds. So from like water commissions, universities, and a few other different fields. So they were not necessarily the engineers with boots on the ground, but they just wanted to understand more about dam safety management, particularly in the Australian context, where I guess they're still building up their frameworks in those countries and trying to adopt best practice from international contingents.
Yeah. So from Tassie, you can have a real tangible impact on the safety and the management and the operation of dams and renewable projects across the world.
Yes, that's exactly right. I haven't been fortunate enough, I guess, aside from interacting with that delegation, to work on some of our international projects, but it's fantastic to see with our Indian office some of the projects they're working on. They quite regularly chat to us and presented a brown bag the other day on an interesting topic about the Himalayas. There's so many opportunities out there beyond Australia, which I think can be really valuable in the sense that we have to take learnings from those, or we have to, I guess, temper expectations, because what we do in the Australian context can't always apply overseas. So that sort of adaptability, I think, is a real skill developing from international projects.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Sally, it sounds like you've had a wonderful journey so far and a bright future ahead. What would you say to somebody who wanted to follow in your footsteps?
Yeah, I mean, I think engineering is a really rewarding career, but I also think there's a lot of mystery and smoke and mirrors in front of it that need to really be cleared away for people to actually understand what it is we do. And I think particularly for females in engineering, that can be a particular challenge, because there's this kind of perception that the industry is male-dominated, which the statistics say it is, but also that I think I mentioned it before, that maybe it's not a particularly fulfilling or impactful career. So I think as engineers in industry and as educators, we really need to be more forward-thinking on how we can actually communicate that better and break down some of those barriers to entry. So I think something like this podcast and series is one of those ways in which we can do that and try and have these casual conversations and try and explain that in more depth. And there's a lot of great marketing out there and great opportunities. A lot of schools have STEM programs, and possibly there could be some more improvements there and focuses on women in particular. I know Hydro, I think they have a Women in Engineering scholarship that they've sponsored, which is really great. And also I haven't watched it, so I can't really speak to it, but I did see that they've got like a short series on a group of 3 women, just local Tassie girls, who've gone around the various dam sites in Tassie. I think it's called Tasmania's Superpower. But yes, I'll have to put that on the watch list. But I think just experiences like that for people to come face to face with the profession, I think people should really try and capture those and make the most of those opportunities as they come up. And yeah, even things like just reaching out to engineers if you know one, or reaching out through your educators, I guess, to put you in contact with someone. When I was in year 11, I actually did about a week at a local engineering firm just to sort of confirm it was the way that I wanted to go. I also spent a day at an architecture firm, and that was probably enough for me. Oh, that was a bit shady. Maybe I should have said that. Anyway, yeah, so I think just having those experiences to go from like algebra or trig that you're learning in the classroom to actually see the practical application of it. So I'm really passionate about trying to break down some of those barriers, and I've spoken at UTAS about that and my old school as well. And also there's the CSIRO STEM Professionals in School Partnership, which tries to link industry professionals in the STEM, science and engineering backgrounds to rural schools in particular. Also, I have a lot of fun helping out as a volunteer at the Science and Engineering Challenge. So I really like trying to give back to the industry and sort of not necessarily being a poster child, but just trying to advocate for women in engineering through those experiences.
As a profession, what do you think needs to change to encourage more women into the career?
I think we're starting to see some positive signs. So I know a lot of organisations are starting to have policies around gender equity and equality. I believe I'm sure Hydro has something similar. I probably should know about that. But anyway, I guess there's a lot of organisations that have certain KPIs and targets around that sort of thing. And I think there does need to be some sort of a sensitivity around that so it doesn't border on tokenism. But I think having some of those targets in place, whether it's a percentage of females on boards or a percentage of females as part of an interview team as well, I think those sort of things, as well as scholarships for females in workplaces, can really help sway the balance. And yeah, as I mentioned before, I guess trying to demystify the profession as well. So that's why I quite liked the initiatives that Hydro have got. I know they participate in the Women in Power activity as well as many others, I'm sure, that I've neglected to mention. So it's really good to see them trying to do that. And I think, shout the message from the rooftops kind of thing.
So Sally, Entura's vision is a sustainable energy future for all. Mm-hmm. What does that mean to you? Yeah,
I think for me it's leaving a lasting and positive legacy behind me for my children, or for my child at this point in time anyway. And I think in the engineering industry we've been entrusted, I guess, by the community around the world to help make that happen. So we're in a pretty unique situation with a difficult challenge ahead of us. But I think for me, the contribution that we can make as engineers is to really try and, I guess, incorporate those sustainable aspects into every facet of our project. And it sounds really cheesy, but the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So I think we've been stepping along for some time now, but I guess we need to really try and expedite that process as we head towards net zero. There's some pretty ambitious targets and timelines to meet. And so from all aspects of the project life cycle, I should say, all aspects of the project lifestyle, from feasibility, planning, design, construction and operation, and then eventually decommissioning, and thinking about that whole of life cycle asset approach, I think is really important in sustainability. And I think, we're seeing companies make starting to make those changes and choices a lot more now. And I guess Hydro's contribution through Battery of the Nation and all their other projects that go along with that, as well as their smart energy initiatives and uptake of electric vehicles and things like that. It's just those steps that we can see to start making sizable change along the way. So I think that's probably my best way to summarise it, just applying that whole of life cycle thinking behind our projects, and that goes for us as consultants, but also through to construction contractors, asset owners, government as well. They each have their own roles to play. So I think one of the Entura values as part of their Our Way approach is better together, and I think that's really the ethos that we need to apply to tackle this problem as we move forward.
Fantastic. Sally, it's been great to chat with you this afternoon. Your passion is palpable. It's great to have you on board. It's great to see you pushing the industry widely, but also with our young girls. Yep. So thank you very much.
No worries. It was great to be a part of it. Thanks, Mark.
Excellent. You've been listening to the Entura Behind the Scenes podcast. Thanks for joining us, and see you next time. Thank you for joining us on this insightful journey behind the scenes at Entura. We hope you've gained valuable insights into the incredible individuals driving sustainable innovation. If you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Stay tuned for more inspiring conversations as we continue to explore the people and stories shaping our sustainable future. Connect with us on LinkedIn and Facebook, and find out more about the work we do at entura.com.au. Until next time, this is Mark signing off from Entura's Behind the Scenes, where sustainability meets inspiration.